Hey everybody, it's Rasheda Randle and you're checking me out on Chats. I've always had an interest in the arts growing up. I've always been really drawn to TV, film, and even theater. And so at a very young age, my interest was sparked into getting into that field. One thing about me, I do direct film as well as stage plays. However, I do not write stage plays. Every film that I have ever directed, I have also written and starred in myself. I wrote and directed a short film called Love and War, which is about a soldier who is stationed overseas and he's 2 days away from coming home, and tragedy strikes and his family has to deal with that. And then I also wrote and directed another short film which I released on the same day. It's called Heartless, and it is about a female assassin who is going around the city killing all these high profile men, and there's a detective who is like hot on her trails and he can't really figure out who she is and why she's doing what she's doing. Funny thing about that is I tried to take a back seat as an actress to that particular film. However, I couldn't stay out of it. I wanted to see what it was like to direct someone else as the lead in the play or in the film, and I actually still ended up being in the film, and then I wrote myself into the second installment. Stage plays, I've directed Dear Diary, He Beats Me Cause He Loves Me, which is a stage play about domestic violence, what we like to call a reality stage play. It was written by Antoine DeMarco, who also wrote Philadelphia. I don't know if some of you have probably seen that being put on around the country. I also directed a show called Black Men on Sex and Black Girls on Sex, and that is just kind of like Def Poetry Jam, but it talks more about societal issues dealing with love, sex, and relationships. And then also, I recently directed and produced the Emmett Till story. It's called An American Lynching, the Emmett Till Story, which was written by Monique Mosley and George Potter. And that one is probably the most dear to my heart because ever since I was little, I've been fascinated with history, especially Black history. And it was kind of perfect timing that we put that play on because of all of the injustices that keeps occurring within not just our race, but our nation. And so I think I probably took the most from that. There's a big difference between directing film and stage, just as it is with acting in the two. They're both a lot of work. They're both very, very stressful. However, I think I tend to stress myself out a lot more when it comes to theater because I'm a perfectionist and I want everything to be perfect. So a lot of times my cast has to calm me down because I'm just so stressed out and I just think everything is just gonna just blow up in my face, and it always ends up being amazing. But it's a lot of work because you have to deal with rehearsals and memorizing the lines and making sure you fill the seats and promoting. Where film, it is still a bit stressful. There's still a lot of elements that goes along with that as well, but I tend to have more people, help me along with that. If I had a wish list of film and stage plays to direct, I don't think I've ever thought about it with film. Let me see. I think I would like to direct a period piece, something that goes back in history, something that's a true story. Yeah, I think that would be my wish list for film. For stage plays, I love A Raisin in the Sun, and I had the opportunity to play Beneath a Younger about 2 years ago at the Athenaeum Theater downtown. So I think I would like to direct that play as well as maybe a musical. I can't sing, but it's always been my dream to be in a musical. I want to be on Broadway so bad. So I think I would have fun directing like a Dreamgirls or something like that. I think as a screenwriter, I tend to write more drama. I have a feature film called Never Too Late that is about to go into pre-production. And that one is very, very, very heavy in dramatics. It's really dialogue heavy, and it relies a lot on the actor's ability to pull emotions. So it'll definitely pull the emotions out of the audience as well. I have another one called Raising Destiny, which I'm in the process of writing, and that too is also very dramatic. And I'm gonna try my hand at writing a romantic comedy called The Love Project, and that one is based off of my friend's feeble attempt to find love for me on my 30th birthday, and it didn't happen. So that one just includes a lot of dating mishaps, so to speak, from myself and my friends. I'm also a host, reporter, and associate producer for Real Scene TV, which is a local TV show that airs on WTHR Channel 13, and we highlight Indy's hottest people, places, and nightlife. Above all other things, before filmmaking, directing, I consider myself an actress. And some of my favorite roles is probably Beneatha Younger from A Raisin in the Sun. I studied the original film over and over and over again until I nailed Beneatha. Mamie Till, which is Emmett Till's mother. I recently played her in the stage play An American Lynching, the Emmett Till story. And it was such an honor to be able to portray such a strong woman. We actually had some of their distant relatives in the audience, and they praised not only my performance, but the performance of the entire cast. And then also, I had a lot of fun playing Desiree Parker in The Places You Find Love, which is a film written by Kendall Hoyle, who is one of my fellow actors. He actually plays in my film Love and War. But I like Desiree Parker because she is a boss. She takes no shorts. She takes nothing from nobody. She's about her money. She's about her business. And everybody bows down to her. I would love to one day work with Meryl Streep, the queen. I love Meryl Streep. I love Julia Roberts. I love Angela Bassett, Denzel Washington. And then a lot of the up-and-coming actors who are really making their mark in the industry right now, like Lupita, oh God, even like Don Cheadle, and those types of versatile actors who are just blazing Hollywood. I would love to work with them. Anybody, just put me on the Hollywood screen. How do I prepare? How do I prepare for my roles? Well, I start by breaking down the scripts. I have to read from beginning to end, then I break down each script, I break down each scene, and I have to figure out exactly who my character is and what their goal is, not even in just that particular scene, but the end goal. I have quite a few different methods that I follow. And I mean, I have to focus, and I memorize my lines pretty easily. It doesn't take a lot for me to memorize something, so I'm able to, once I get the lines, I can focus on who the character actually is and what the character wants from the other characters in the film, and what that particular character wants out of life in terms of the script. For those actors who are trying to get their foot in the door, I will say first that it does look like a lot of fun, and it is, but it is also a lot of work. I consider this a job. Most actors consider it a job, and 90% of your job calls for you to audition. And so in this business, you have to have really tough skin because there is a lot of rejection that comes with it. It's a very competitive field, so you have to always be prepared. And in order to set yourself apart from any other actor, you must be trained. There are several acting workshops out there that you can attend that are affordable. You can find an acting coach and work with that acting coach. If you are not working on a project, then you need to be on stage or you need to be in a class. But at some point, you need to train some more. I would also say do your research. Find you a monologue and rehearse it and practice it until you get it right. Get you a couple of different ways to deliver that monologue. Find a scene now, because a lot of casting directors are casting off of scenes. So find you a scene and work with that. Get feedback. Record yourself. Also get yourself a really good headshot. Get on some of the acting or the casting websites and just audition as much as possible. Get as much experience as you possibly can. But start with community theater, because theater is like the best practice for acting. It's kind of like hands-on experience. I like to say it's like an internship, how you are working but you're getting that experience as well. So if there is a workshop that you can't afford or something like that, you can still get that training on stage, and it'll also give you an experience and help you to build your resume. But you have to believe in yourself in order for others to believe in you as well. You can also look into different talent agencies that are in your area. I will say be very careful when you are seeking these agencies out. Make sure you're doing your research, because there are a lot of scams that are going on out there. If you ever see, a modeling agency or a talent agency in a mall, not real. Or if you hear it on the radio and they say, meet us at the hotel, we have representatives from Disney and Nickelodeon and all that stuff, 9 times out of 10, they just want your money, and they will put you all through all these hoops only to say that you got to pay us $1,000 in order to advance to the next level. And they usually target kids or parents of kids, because every parent wants to hear that my kid has what it takes to be a star. And so they get excited, and so they don't think to really do their research and really look into it. So be very, very careful when you are seeking out these talent agencies. However, there are some that work for I have lots of friends who are represented by different talent agencies, and they are really working for them. I myself was represented by Heyman Talent Agency, as well as Lily's Talent Agency in Chicago. Unfortunately, I'm no longer with either of them. I myself got more work on my own than I did with my particular agencies. But again, like I said, I know several people who these agencies worked for them. So as an actor, if you can get, all this work on your own, then I would say maybe don't get an agent until it's absolutely necessary. Maybe once you become SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild, part of the union. And then from there, they can help you get more major budget projects. Other people tend to go the management route. They seek out managers. A manager is nothing more but the middleman in between the artist and the agent. So if you prefer to have a manager over an agent, or a manager until you can get an agent, that works too. But either way, just make sure that whoever you go with, or whichever avenue that you take, is legitimate, because there are a lot of people out there who are targeting people who want that limelight. Another thing in reference to the talent agencies, if someone is interested in representing you, they will invest in you. Do not pay anything up front. Managers and talent agents get paid when you get paid. If they book work for you, then they get a certain percentage of that, and it can be anywhere from 10 to 20% that I've seen. But you should never pay them up front. Ivy League Productions is my production company. It started off as a casting company. I was a freelance casting director for local independent films. Now, Ivy League is a full-fledged production company. We produce, direct, write independent films, short films, stage plays. So far, I have written and directed Love and War and Heartless, which are both short films that I simultaneously released back in November of 2013. Love and War was featured in the Indiana Black Expo Film Festival this past summer. Love and War, I wrote that in one day, I think. I had a friend who was a photographer, and he was interested in learning how to shoot film. And so he called me up, he asked me if I had any projects that we could shoot. I told him no, but give me a little bit of time and I'd have something for him within a half an hour. I called him back with an idea. The next day, I had the script. And it took us 3 days to film it. Unfortunately, we were not able to use that footage because we had some audio issues. So the cast voted to reshoot, and that is what we have out there online today. Heartless, something else that I wrote in a week. I had another friend who was trying to build his resume, and he wanted to shoot some stuff, and so I wrote Heartless. And that one, I have everybody wanting to see more, so Heartless 2 will be coming soon. Never Too Late is next up. It is a feature film that I wrote back in 2011. It is my baby. And so I just put that into pre-production. So we'll be doing some funding, some fundraising to get that one up and running. And then after that, we'll have Raising Destiny and The Love Project. Some of the stage plays that we've done is Dear Diary, He Beats Me Because He Loves Me, and An American Lynching, The Emmett Till Story. Well, I chose the Emmett Till play. Actually, Emmett Till story was written in 2004. And it was supposed to be performed. Actually, it was performed as a dramatic reading at Indiana State University's Human Rights Day program. And back then I was a part of it as well. And it was just something that always kind of like tugged in my heart. Like I said, I've always been really big on history in general. And so the Emmett Till story was always a story that has always touched me. And so, I don't know, maybe a year ago, around Emmett Till's birthday, I had posted on Facebook something about us doing that show back then, and another guy who's also a fellow actor who lives in LA suggested that I get in contact with the writers and produce the play to its full potential. And when I started the casting for it, I wasn't getting a good response. I was getting a response from people who wanted to see the show, but I wasn't getting a response from people who wanted to be in the show. So eventually we ended up getting it together and putting on the show, and it ended up being perfect timing with all that is going on in the country today. The story is still very, very, very relevant, and so I pushed really, really hard for younger people to come and see the show. I wanted the youth there front and center, so I got sponsors from different businesses for certain youth groups, church groups, and things like that, because it's a very in-your-face, I call it a live history lesson. And as sad as it is, as unfortunate as it is life, and history is repeating itself. And so I thought it was very relevant to today's society, and it was a really good teaching lesson for the young people out there, even for some adults, because there are a lot of adults who had never heard of the Emmett Till story. And that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, where were you in history class? Like, how do you not know this story? And so I got text messages from teachers who, was saying that the play sparked a talking point for their class or for their youth group. And, even some of the kids were moved by it. And they themselves related it to the Trayvon Martins and the Michael Browns and things like that. And so that is exactly what I wanted to happen with it. My goal for Ivy League Productions is just to continue creating quality projects. I want to continue to grow. I want to start operating on a more mainstream level. I want to get my films into the theaters and get on the red carpets and all that stuff. So I have really high hopes for Ivy League Productions. I also want to, at some point, build like a talent database as well. My thoughts on Sorority Sister Show on VH1. Well, I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and I do not like the show. I was one of the ones who signed the petition to get it removed from the original trailer from online, and to stop the show from airing on VH1. And yet Mona Scotty Young was a little sneaky and released the official trailer 3 days before the show aired. I think it is a poor representation of Black Greek life. We already have to defend ourselves against people who don't understand our organizations and why they exist and what we stand for. And to now have to defend ourselves against behavior of women who are acting in the name of their organization. I mean, it's a little heartbreaking for me. And then you get people who, would say, okay, well, the same people who are against the Sorority Sister Show are the same people who are watching Love and Hip Hop and those types of shows. And yes, I do watch Love and Hip Hop. I do. That doesn't mean that I think it is the best thing on television. I think that it is a good representation of our culture. But when you think about it, how they're behaving on those shows, that is what is being portrayed in hip hop or just out there on TV today. It's what's being portrayed. And so the producers of these shows are feeding off of that. What's being portrayed on the Sorority Sister Show is not what we are about as Greeks. We stand for scholarship, we stand for service, we stand for sisterhood or brotherhood and then fraternities. We don't act a fool like that and do it in the name of our organization. I will say this, just from having a production background, I see why the producers of these types of shows are pushing for these types of shows. That's not me saying that they are right. That's not me saying that I would ever have anything to do with them, but they are producing what is selling. People want to see, or people watch, I don't want to say people want to see, people watch the ratchet stuff. They watch, they tune in to see the fighting. They tune in to see the cursing each other out and the acting a fool. And what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of those scenes are set up to be that way in order to bring the ratings. The producers create these scenarios. They may not provide a script, but they create these scenarios in order for things like that to pop off. But we also have to keep in mind that the people who are the pawns in all of this are maybe not so much pawns, but they're willing participants because they are getting paid to act a fool. And I think that we should demand, I think that's what we're trying to do. I think we are trying to demand a balance with the boycotting of sorority sisters, with the boycotting of Basketball Wives. People have tried to boycott Love and Hip Hop before, and it doesn't work. Our voices aren't heard because it's not enough of us who are demanding a change. So if we are going to, or we want to demand better, we have to be on one accord, because you get the people who are fighting those who are, okay, for example, you have this group of people who are fighting to get sorority sisters off. Then you got this group of people who are calling these people hypocrites because they want to see something better. So if we're constantly pulling and playing tug of war, how are we ever going to see our better representation on TV? I mean, we've had good clean shows, like the Tia and Tamera shows, but you see, those didn't stick around too long because people aren't watching them. I love the show, but people aren't watching it like they're watching the ratchet TV, what I like to call it, the Love and Hip Hops and the Basketball Wives and things like that. So, I mean, if we want better, we have to do better. I recently just moved to Atlanta, Georgia to further my career as an actress and filmmaker. I chose Atlanta. Actually, you know what? I didn't choose Atlanta. I think Atlanta chose me. I didn't want to go to New York because I've already lived in New York. I actually moved there right after college when I was pursuing a career behind the camera. And besides, if I wanted to be on Broadway, then I would go to New York. But I was really, really dead set on going to LA. However, as time got closer, I started to have second thoughts because I didn't really want to go that far away from my family. So I was having some reservations there. I was applying to different production jobs and different projects, acting wise, and I wasn't really getting anything. But then I was offered a role in a web series in Atlanta, which was a union gig as well. And then a couple of other projects in Atlanta. And so, I felt like that was God telling me that Atlanta is where I needed to be, because I had recently spent a year traveling every other weekend to Atlanta to star in a stage play. Then I took a month off of work and I moved down there to finish out the play. And so I had just been back and forth to Atlanta, and for whatever reason, God wanted me there, so I left it up to him. I prayed about it, and that is where I ended up. Ultimately, though, I do plan to go to LA. I don't see myself in Atlanta forever unless, I find Prince Charming or something. I don't know. But my goal for Atlanta is to further build my resume, go ahead and become SAG eligible so that I can relocate to LA, because that is mostly where they are casting the principal actors there. In Atlanta, it's mostly secondary roles, background roles, those kind of things. So I tend to leave my mark there as an actress, and then also as a filmmaker. One of my films is actually written partially set in Atlanta and partially set in Indianapolis. So I plan to do some filmmaking down there. And just kind of, rebuild myself, to reach the same potential that I've done here. So my goals for 2015, career-wise, some things that are on my bucket list, is to get Never Too Late complete. I want to get that completed. I want to get it into some film festivals, let it go the festival circuit. I want to land some recurring roles on some TV shows and maybe get onto a touring production, travel a little bit more, and do what I love. You can follow me on Instagram at Simply Sheda. That's SimplySheda. That's also the same for Twitter. You can also follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/actress Rasheda Randle. And also my IMDb page, which is IMDb /Rasheda Randle.